Welcome to Choosing Acceptance podcast with your host, Marie Mason. I am here to share some success stories and tips on how to overcome your learning disability so that you can turn your talents into a career. And I love to inspire children and parents and teachers with learning disabilities to go beyond their limits so that they can make a bigger impact in the world. Schedule a call to become a guest on our show at calendly.com/Marie V. Mason. Welcome, everybody, to our Choosing Acceptance podcast with your host, Marie Mason. And I'm super excited because you don't have to hear me the whole time. And our today's guest is Howard Berg, and he's an executive member with the Howard Berg Learning Systems, LLC from Florida. And he's really going to be helping us with a lot of wonderful topics on a particular topic that's one of my favorites, which is a total learning solution for the 21st century. We will get into his bio a little more detailed when we bring him up after the commercial break. But really quickly, we basically love to empower adults with learning disabilities with business strategies to help build an online business on our podcast. We provide you with guidance on how to overcome your learning difficulties and turn your talents into a career. So we also enjoy sharing our resources from both ourselves and our guests on our show for helping you to support your talent development, self-acceptance, and personal growth. That's what our show is all about. So super excited for having Howard Berg share some wonderful tips on the topic called a total learning solution for the 21st century. And oh my gosh, I don't know, we might be getting ready to go hit the 22nd century before long. How are you, Howard? We'll let you say hi at least.
I'm above ground, so I'm doing well.
To my son all the time.
It's a win.
I agree. In this day and age, it really is. So if anyone's above ground, you heard it from Howard. It's a good thing.
Yeah, having a good day.
I also add to that, if I'm above ground, that means God's not done with me yet. So I've got some more to work to do. So yeah, we're on the same trajectory there. So I love it. Anyway, I'm going to share the quick tips of the week, and that's really focusing on kind of redefining what learning means. Because I do have the 4 learning styles. That's one of our previous episodes, I think, in the first season. So check out our earlier episodes for that one. But I think we really need to define what it is because today's topic is all about learning solutions. And we're going to get into some really juicy tips on that. But first, what is learning? Okay, because I like to have everyone have clarity on that. Learning actually is the process of acquiring knowledge, skills, and understanding through study or experience or teaching it. Because one of the things I've learned, Howard, maybe you could attest to this real quick. Some of my best learning has been through teaching others. Would you agree or disagree?
One of the best ways to get good at anything is to teach it.
See, there you go. You got an expert of backup opinion there. So there you go. I love it. So thank you. So it also involves in adapting and applying to new insights to solve problems, make decisions, and grow yourself intellectually or emotionally, because that's a part that people don't really pay attention to, that you have emotional intelligence as well.
I have a definition that we use as learning is understanding the meaning and significance of what you're learning and being able to use it when you need to.
Brilliant. I love that definition. So you got another one there. And lastly, at its core, the main point of it for learning is empowers individuals to continually evolve and thrive in an ever-changing world. Oh my gosh. My mom does crossword puzzles, for example, is to keep her mind sharp. So it's all about making sure that you keep your mind sharp. And when you're learning, you're growing internally and you're adding value to yourself. And one of the things I've learned as a leader in a business for my business is if I'm not learning something, how can I give towards my team? How can I give towards my students for my business academy? So even people who are in leadership roles, and if you're a small business owner, you're in the leadership role too. So you need to lead leaders, in a sense, are readers, as one way of putting it, but they're also constantly learning something new. If you find yourself empty and drained, when was the last time you picked up a book or picked up an learning, something to learn online? When was the last time you learned on a course? When was the last time you had a conversation with a coach? When were you getting something back, putting something back into yourself? When you pour into yourself, then you could pour into others. Would you agree or disagree, Howard?
Oh, absolutely. When you stop learning, you really stop living. Oprah, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett read a book a day. Elon Musk reads 2 books a day. So whose bank account would you rather have, theirs or yours? And what are they doing that you're not? They're reading every day and they're increasing their understanding. That's what I do every day. I learn.
And then the next step to doing that is applying what you learn.
You have to.
It's
If you don't use it, it's going to disappear.
like riding a bike, right?
Yeah, it's very important to do something with the data that you've accumulated, and not just put it on a piece of paper somewhere and never look at it again, which is what most people are doing. So they'll go to a seminar or a training, and 3 weeks later, all they remember is they had good donuts and they made some friends. But what they learned is gone. They have no conscious recall. And that's sad because there was a reason they had a meeting and they trained you on something that actually had value.
Yeah.
And so what I
Uh,
teach people when they take notes is to do 3 columns.
okay.
First column is what you're learning. Second column is what did they do to make it interesting so you can do it when you want to be interesting. What was the thing? Did they tell a story? Did they tell a joke? What is it they did? And you went, wow, that's great. Because you could do that to have people say, wow, that's great when you're doing it. And the third column is what will you do with what you just learned? How will you apply it? So if I'm learning new marketing at a seminar, I'm putting in the third column how I'm going to use it in my marketing campaigns when I get home. And then when I get home, I look at it and I do it. And when I see a 30% boost in my sales, I don't have to study it again because my brain knows this is very good. This is information that works and it doesn't need to be reminded. It just looks at the bank account and says, good information. It's
Well,
it's the results that lock it into the brain.
yep, it's true. No, it's a good point, and it's really good. I always was told when I first started being in business owners many years ago in a different business model than being a business coach. One of the things I was told was look at the people ahead of you. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in. Look at a job, look at the position that you want to be in for the next, lifetime, where do you see yourself in the next 5 or 10 years? Look at their lifestyle. And if it doesn't match and align with your values, then you're in the wrong industry. Um, so you got to kind of keep that in mind whenever you're going to go do either a job or go into a career of your choice. Make sure you look at the fruit of the tree. Okay. Um, and don't judge them if they're still beginning or if they're relaunching because, they've had experience in a different part of their models, but, take their experience, for what it is. It is experience. But at the same time, if you have, looking for somebody who's been around for a while, but they don't align with your values and you don't get along, you're not going to learn very well from them. So that's something to keep in mind. We're going to dive more into some things about that after the commercial break. So, really quickly, we're going to go and take hear from a word from one of our sponsors because I really believe that that's important that we recognize one of the sponsors. And then we'll be right back after this commercial break.
Marie Mason. I am a business strategy coach. I run a mastermind group for online business owners where our members get to network, collaborate, and learn from one another in an exclusive environment. Our business academy takes a modern approach to business solutions by incorporating the latest technology and strategies to ensure that you hire a qualified team to handle your workflows.
I want to just say welcome back to the Choosing Acceptance podcast with host Marie Mason, and today's guest is Howard Berg. He's an executive member of the Howard Berg Learning Systems LLC, which we mentioned before in our beginning of our
Well, I mentioned
podcast.
I'm also the world's fastest reader.
Oh, that's good to know too. So you guys heard that from the world's fastest reader. So anyway, basically he is from Florida, and I will not mention where because I'm sure I will probably butcher the spelling and pronunciation anyway. So he can say that if he wants to. But anyway, I want to share that he also loves to help people who are going to school to learn more, or professionals, or want to stay mentally fit, or help people who just want to learn more information in less time so that they have study skills without being nervous. Oh my gosh, like I told him at the beginning before we started the podcast, I wish I had him at the beginning of my school career because I could have learned better without done better on tests. I knew everything. I'll give you a tip real quick, and Howard, and then I'm going to finish the rest of this one. But I actually was so nervous taking tests, but I could tell the teacher what page it was on, the answer was on. I could tell you what paragraph it was on. I could tell you what sentence it was on, but I wouldn't be able to fully recall the information. So that may be something we talk about later. But anyway, but basically, the way that he and Howard does this is we do this through a simple learning system that you could apply to with e-learning. Forgive me in my voice this morning. Going a little wonky on me. But anyway, the wonderful part about today's podcast is he's going to have a topic that's called a total learning solution for the 21st century. And probably going into the 22nd century before long. I don't know. We'll see. It feels like it's going by fast. But let's start with our questions, Howard, because you've given us so many juicy tips at the beginning. So we're going to dive right on in. One of the things I have learned growing up as a student in life and all throughout my career, all the way through college, was people are really good at teaching what to learn and why to learn it. We talk about that and hear about that all the time. Now, I'd like for you to explain how we learn, and here is why. Yes, people do teach you some of the methods, okay, of how to learn, but I want you to come from a different perspective because you've been teaching people how to learn for a while. So I wanted to have you share your perspective on how we learn. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So when you're in a car, you're driving on a highway, probably around 70 miles an hour or faster, depending on where you live. And you're reading the road, the front, the back, the left, the right, and you watch your gauges, you watch your GPS, you're bored, so you turn on the radio, you talk to your friends, you're on the phone, and you're bored. When you're reading a book, you read about 200 words a minute. It's in front of you, and you only remember about 10% the next day. So why is so much more data being processed in four directions in a car and so much more understood and used? And it's even boring when a book, you're going so slowly and it's in front of you. And the answer, it holds the secret to learning. When you're in a car, everything's a movie. You're processing everything around you as visual data. When you're in a book, there's like someone in the back of your head and they're pronouncing one word at a time. You're listening to a book with your eyes,
Mm-hmm.
and hearing is digital, but seeing is analog. If you look at all the books behind me, you see them. If I said read the title on every book, it would take you quite a lot of time to do that. And that's the difference between vision, seeing everything instantly, and hearing, seeing one thing at a time. Like a song, it takes time to listen to a song, but you see a picture or a painting instantly. So what I'm doing is I'm teaching people to be more visual when they learn, and then to store the information in multiple memories, not just the visual memory, but the motor area, the auditory area. The more, does it make sense? The more brain you would
Oh yeah.
stimulate, the more ways you could recall it later when you need it. So when most people learn, they just stare at something over and over and over again and they hope it'll stick. And sometimes it does, but most of the time, all they remember is I knew this yesterday. Why don't I know it today? I spent all my evenings studying this and I can't recall it
Mhm.
because they never really learned it. What they did is
Yeah.
they put it into a different memory. It's called intermediate memory, which lasts about 4 to 6 hours. And then sort of like 51st dates, when they woke up, it was gone. They never put it into that permanent memory where it sticks. So what I'm teaching them is not just to read and look at information, but how their brain works so they can make sure what they're learning doesn't disappear the next day. And here's a problem. Like, so you go to school, you study on Thursday, you test on Friday, and by Saturday you don't remember anything you learned. If they asked you at graduation, name the teachers you had and the classes they taught, no one would get a diploma. So what's the point of an education system? You don't even know who you studied with and what they taught you, let alone the facts that were
Yeah.
in the class. So I'm thinking that information actually has value, and you should be just sitting there and learning it for the next day, but learning it for the rest of your life. Can I give an example?
Sure.
So I was a biology major, and of course, as a BA, you gotta take classes and subjects you have nothing to do with. I had to take liberal arts to get a degree. So I took theater, and I'm like, what am I going to do in a theater class? I'm a biologist. I'm going to put amoeba on a stage and have jumping amoeba. I mean, what is a biologist going to do in theater? That was what I was thinking when I was learning it. Well, 30 years later, I did an infomercial with Nightingale Conan on television. It made $65 million. I didn't get the whole thing. I was an author. You know how that works. They get $100, you get a penny. That's how authors get royalties. But I was the one who made the 65 million happen. How did I do it? I learned theater. I knew how to use my face and where to look and what to say and how to say it. I understood how to do an interview. I understood there was no script, there was no rehearsal, there was no editing. They just did what you're doing. They asked questions for 28 minutes and I answered them. That was the entire commercial. But I
Hmm.
understood theater because when I was in school, that stupid course that I didn't want to take helped me make $65 million 30 years later. Who would
It's
think?
right there. Take those
Example.
courses.
There's those things that you said, I would never use this. It's stupid. And then 20, 30 years later, you realize this is so important to what I'm going to do today. And thank God I know about it because otherwise I wouldn't be able to use that information anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't discredit the
Yeah.
significance of things you're learning because right now you don't see it. Later in life, things change. I took water safety instructor. I taught swimming. Well, I was in my mid 30s. I'm doing laps, and the guy next to me isn't moving. And I went over to him. He was dead. He drowned. And
Oh,
I told the lifeguard, he's dead. We got to get him out. I know how to teach this, so I taught lifeguards. So I said, get in the pool. We're gonna pull him out. They're dead weight, literally. They're dead weight. You pull him out of the pool. We're doing CPR. The guy's heart started. He started to breathe. This is from what I learned 15 years earlier in college in a swimming class. Who would have thought a 1 credit swimming class
would
would
save a
be
life.
saving a life 15 years later? You don't see that connection when it's happening. But there's an
True.
example of how information that we're often taught and seems useless and boring has great value later in our lives, and we only appreciate it 15, 20 years later when it actually needs to be used. So
That's a good point. Yeah,
don't just take things lightly and say this is boring. You never know what that thing you're looking at today will do for you later in life.
I love that because my son, 18, has been taking college, is in college, just finished his first semester in college, going into his second. And he's, taken all the classes all the way through from preschool to high school. And he would be wondering sometimes, why are we ever going to need this kind of information? And we're learning that now. And I'm like, you just never know when it would come in handy, is what I always tell them. And just because you don't like it and don't relate to it now doesn't mean it's not going to be useful. Some of it, the theory part, is just that theory, but some of it is more of how do you apply it and then what results you get from that too. So, I mean, there's a whole different parts of that we could get into for another show. Because I have a feeling we can talk about this one question for an hour. And we don't have that kind of time for a day. But anyway, but the next question, but it leads me to the next question, really. How can we teach students to think critically, learn effectively, and apply their knowledge in real life situations?
Well,
And we may not get to all of our questions today. We'll see. We'll see how it
this
goes.
one I know. I owned a school, and most schools are based on time. You
Mm-hmm.
spend a year in, it's called first grade, and if you get a D or a C, it's okay. You go to the next grade, and now you're in second grade for a year, and you get a D or a C or an F. As long as you don't get an F, they keep moving you up. We didn't do that. We didn't base it on how long you sat in a chair and didn't learn anything. We had one grade, A, and you earned it. You didn't get an A till you got an A, and you didn't go to the next thing till you learn what you were learning. You didn't go to high school and you weren't able to divide or add or subtract or multiply and then try to learn algebra. It doesn't work. You can't do it. We made sure whatever subject they were on, they mastered it. So we had a 10-year-old do high school biology in 1 week, the whole 10-month curriculum. You'd say, well, what can he do in a week? Our tests were all essays, not multiple choice where you could guess or fill in the blank. You had to explain your answer. You had to understand what you were saying. Here's a typical question. Explain the genetic code and how it works. What is the mitochondria? If you get 300 essays like that and you get two wrong, I'm going to see you finished high school biology. And that's what he did. He had 300 essays at that level and got them right. So now he went to the next thing. What if they got it wrong? Well, we did, these courses were all online, and the students would get the list of questions and they'd write in their answers. If they got it right, we marked it in green, go to your next thing. If they got it wrong, we marked it in red, they had to fix it. Well, we let them try on their own 2 or 3 times, and then we gave them clues. We never, ever gave them the answer. You'll never learn to think if every time you have a problem, someone solves it for you. Leaders have to learn how to think and solve problems. So what we did is we gave them more and more and more clues, lots of clues, until it was obvious to them what the right answer was. It took time for some people in certain topics to learn it and understand it, but when they did, they got an A. So everyone was mastering the topic. They weren't reading at the third grade level in 10th grade, because if they didn't read at the third grade level, they didn't get fourth grade reading. They stayed at third grade till they mastered it. No C. You want to fly in a plane with a pilot who got a C in landings, or have surgery with a doctor who got a C minus in the surgery that he's about to do? I don't think so. There's no.
Unless his experience was a good positive outcome that outweighed the grades, that's a different story. But
You either
yeah,
learn it or you don't learn it. If you
yeah.
don't learn it, you keep learning till you do. So what do you do with someone who doesn't learn it? You put them in a vocational path. They don't have to go to college. They could be a plumber. Plumbers make more money than most teachers. Electrician, an auto mechanic. They make very good incomes. They're doing something that they love and they're good at. Forcing everyone to learn trigonometry is ridiculous because most people will never use it in their life. It doesn't mean it has no purpose. It does, but not for everyone. So we made sure every one of our students earned an A in anything they did. And what we did is the teachers focused on the ones struggling. Everyone struggled in a different subject. I struggled in Spanish. I get 99s in everything but Spanish. So they would focus on that subject you needed help with. And then the kids that were doing fine and they need help kept flying. They kept flying higher and higher and higher. If they hit a wall, then we worked with them. So the time was spent fixing the problems and letting people go further and further. And we encouraged them to help each other. In the old days, when there was a one-room schoolhouse and all the grades, K through 12, were in one room, the older kids mentored the younger ones. The teacher couldn't teach everything, so the 12th grader would teach the addition, and the 11th grader would teach the how to write. They would work with students, and a lot of times it works better because they're not intimidated by someone their own age or
Or
another
someone that's
student.
in there in the learning phase that they are in. So yeah,
Right.
it's a
That's
little
how we
higher.
did it. So nobody graduated until they got an A in every subject. And here's what happened. Most of them finished high school with 20 to 45 college credits.
Good
No
deal.
one in junior high ever finished high school in my school. They finished college before they got out of high school. So they had no reason to go to a high school degree. They had college degrees. One of them got a 4.0 at 16, majored in economics, had a master's in math at 19 with a 397 GPA. He's a professor at Yale. Another
Good
was
deal.
11 years old, C student, not a genius, normal kid. And he said, I really want to try. And he said, well, let's see. You're going to have to work really hard. You're a C student. I want to do this. So he did the program. He got his 2 year degree at 17, his bachelor's at 19, master's in English at 21, English professor at 22. This is an 11-year-old C student who's a professor at 22. What changed? We taught them how to learn, not just what to learn. Nobody in my school learned anything till they learned how to learn. That's what we're doing at the mrreader.com/reading. We taught them how to learn. Then they learned history. Then they learned science. Then they learned math, but they knew how to learn. And so they were able to do it. It didn't matter how hard. We had them do a semester of lifelong developmental psychology. That's a sophomore course in college. They were 11 to 15 years old doing sophomore college book in 1 week using the technique. And then he took the CLEP, CLEP, which is an AP test for credit. Had 18 youngsters, 11 to 15. 15 got full college credit to a sophomore college psychology course in 1 week. That's the difference between sitting in a room for a year and learning nothing and being given the opportunity to use your mind and learn and understand. And that's what I do. I teach learning, not reading. Reading doesn't mean you learn anything. You read a calculus book and not know what you read. It happens every day. You can learn every formula in the book and know how to plug numbers in. And then you fail because you have no idea what to do with the formula to solve a real problem. You just have a bunch of data in your head with no understanding of what it does or how to use it. Learning is really knowing what you're learning, understanding it. And that's what we
Yeah,
focus on understanding, not simply recalling facts that you don't understand.
right. And you bring up a good point because one of the things when I was going to school, um, and it kind of hit me more when I think I had more of a realization when I was in high school and I was memorizing a poem for something we were doing for a competition, just a fun competition, not a friendly competition. And one of the things that I learned in that short period of time was from a classmate, like you said, peer to peer, right? And she taught me how to read the poem and understand the poem's meaning, and not just to memorize it verbatim, but to read to understand. And when I read to understand it, it helped me to recall it better.
Yes.
So you made a great point. So that was my quick little demonstration about that. And the
Right.
last thing I wanted to say about what you just also talked about was how you were talking about critical thinking part. Um, Getting back to that subject matter, my son, when he was learning driving this summer, okay, um, even the last 2 years when he's got his, learner's permit, and he took a break from driving because he got spooked by something that happened in his driving practice, and he just couldn't overcome, get over the hurdle. One of the things I would do is, even when I was driving, I'm really like, quick, what would you do in that situation? And I would sit there and say, we are doing this is happening. What would you do? And I would get him to, he knew the book learn stuff. So when he got behind the wheel and we were getting into situations like a foggy road, pea soup fog, because we have that in the mountain. We do a lot of mountain driving to get to other places in our area. And I said, quick, what are you supposed to do? What's your next step? And my goal wasn't to tell him, but to help him recall by just asking him what. So instead of the hen picking mom saying, you need to do blah, 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 it's so easy for us as adults to do that. I decided to be the one that is going to be a little different and just sit there and says, yes, I could do some of that sometimes. But it got on his nerves and we both would get nitpicky at each other. So to avoid that, I decided I'm going to ask you some, I just asked him some questions. Says, what's your next step? I said, and then I would even sometimes even hint, you've got a car coming up behind you, or you're getting close up to a truck or something in front of you. What's your next step? What do you think you should do? That was my way of giving a clue inside of a question to help him give that critical thinking so he can learn how to drive without me constantly telling him what to do.
And he was learning it.
Mm-hmm. And he did a very good job. And he passed his driver's license a second time. And and once he smoothed out his rough edges, a month later, he was driving on his own.
Because
Four
remember,
months.
driving's a motor skill. So there's a
Yeah.
certain amount, it's a little different than, say, learning math. There's repetition, learning a guitar, learning to swim, learning to type. Repetition plays a very strong part in motor skills, things where you have to physically respond. Even sports have a
Right.
lot to do with that. The body memory, the muscle memory is involved, and it's not instantaneous. And some people have better memories for facts, and some are very agile. I mean, I can't play like a
Yeah.
professional ball player, and I probably never will, but I'm very good at what I do. But they have very good muscle memory, and they're
Yeah.
excellent. And so don't worry, we have the wrong question when someone says, are you smart? No. The real question is, what are you smart at? You find your the area where you do excel. Paul McCartney's a brilliant musician. He's not a great physicist. Who cares? He's not working as a physicist. Einstein was a brilliant physicist. He did play violin, but I don't think any of us remember him for his violin playing.
I never
So
even realized it. So yeah,
yeah,
it's a hidden talent that he
I
didn't
play
share.
guitar, and
Yeah.
people pay me
Hmm.
not to play.
It's like the people who can't sing. Some people don't. Are told that they don't want to quit their day job because their singing might not be the talent to bring in the money, but it's might be something that they still enjoy, and it's okay to
Exactly.
enjoy
It's motor
something you're not.
memory.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
when I'm
it's
writing
okay to
for
enjoy
4 or 5 hours,
it.
I need to break my stay to get fresh
Yeah.
again. So I'll play guitar for 10 minutes. No one wants to hear what I'm doing because it's not very good, but I don't care. It's using a different part of my brain than what I
Yep.
was using when I was writing and giving it a chance to relax and think about other things in the background while I'm doing this. And then when I put it away, I come back fresh to writing. So it isn't for everyone else. I'm doing it because it helps me get in a better state for writing when I'm done.
Yeah, and that's a good point. You do, and I've always told people that I've worked with, always have a hobby. And the hobby isn't something separate from what you do for your career path
Yeah,
because you want to have something to balance out your career path. You want something else also to fall back on because sometimes those hobbies could turn into a career at some point on down the road when you master it, like you
yeah.
said. But in the meantime, want something different. Like I bake, I knit, I play Pokemon with my son, or at least I did up until recently. He's kind of sort of fizzled out and doing more video games now. But anyway, but we do occasional ones with our friends. But the long story short is, I garden when I have my seasonal kind of activity. So each season comes up with a different kind of hobby. Um,
It's
Gardening
good.
is
It's healthy.
yeah, it's better for you to have. You need that break time, and you need to have that balance, and you need to have like an outlet because you need to have a creative outlet. And it could be a do-it-yourself thing, it could be a craft thing, it could be whatever it is that you want, art, whatever, music, whatever it is that you desire. That hobby is a way to give yourself a chance to de-stress or help you to think through things or help you to
Yes,
kind of
absolutely.
tap
And it's
into the
important
other
also
side of the
every day to do
brain.
something physical.
Yeah.
A 30-minute workout is the equivalent of a Xanax in terms of its effect on the anxiety level of the brain. What it does is because you're pushing the muscles, it's releasing endorphins into the bloodstream. This is just how the body's designed. And they found that 30 minutes of good, we're not talking 400-pound weights or running a marathon, which is fine, but just doing something physical for 30 minutes will help reduce the anxiety level, the stress level. The time you invested will come back multiple ways because it's going to increase the blood flow to your brain. It's going to help you be more alert. It's going to help you be more productive. And it's reducing that anxiety level, which many of us have today. Many people aren't even watching the news anymore. It's so bad people can't handle it. They just stop watching it, which is
It's too
not good
opinionated.
either.
It's less
But
facts and more opinions, so I don't blame them. And that's
right.
why.
So I say go to the gym every day or go for a walk, ride a bike, go for a walk, walk your dog. It's very helpful. I know not everyone does it, but actually working with weights is considered a very positive thing to keep the body. I'm 75, but I work out every day at something. And I see a lot of people my age, they can barely walk. They literally can't walk. And I'm swimming, I'm biking, because I'm using my body. It did stop. It never stopped.
Yeah.
And it may not seem important now, but when you get older and you look around you and everyone else is gone, they can't move, their muscles are frozen. That's not the time to decide you're going to ride a bike or
Yeah.
learn how to swim. It's a little late. It's
You
not
got to do baby
impossible.
steps. My mother is 88 years old. She uses a walker and cane, and she's also afraid of falling. And she also's got arthritis really bad, so walking is extra painful for her. So if you see her going, it's probably because she's dealing with
That's
chronic pain.
exactly what she kept going her whole life. It would be much better. And
Well, she has been, for the most part, active up until recent years. And she's also had two broken hips, which
okay,
have been
that yeah,
replaced. And so that plays a
yeah,
factor
it
in the
does. Yes,
mobility.
yes,
That's reduced some of her
yes,
mobility
it
a little
does.
bit.
Yes,
She
it does.
has tried to be, she walks every day as far as around her house. So she's not totally immobile.
That's good.
But at the same time, I think she sits and reads a lot on her Kindle. So I was kind of laughing when you
That's
were saying
important
about that.
too.
Yeah.
People in their 80s that read have a lower onset of dementia and
Yeah.
Alzheimer's. That's been proved. There was a study, it was the Baltimore and Seattle longitudinal study
Hmm.
on aging, which I read 30 years ago in 90 seconds on television. It was like 50 pages. And basically, what it said is people in their 80s that were readers showed much higher mental acuity than non-readers. And they said even those who just started reading in their 80s had a benefit. It wasn't as good as if you did it all along, but it was better than not. What it did
Right.
stimulated the healthy part of the brain to continue to stay healthy and form new neural connections. And so it'll help offset the parts that were wearing out and kept them mentally acute much later in life. So it's the brain is like a muscle. You use it or you lose it. And
Yep.
so many people today, they aren't keeping their brains active and
Mhm.
they don't do anything with their body. They
Right.
watch sports. I tell them, people say, why aren't I rich? Like those people. Well, if you spent all your time watching people throw a ball, then that's what you're good at, watching people throw a ball. What if you spent that time learning a business skill and learning something that you could do better at in life and make more money with? Where would your time be better spent? Learning that skill that people think you make more money, you work more hours or you work more jobs. That's not how you make money. You learn something instead of $15 an hour, you're making $700 an hour because what you learned has value to other people. And how do
Good.
you do that? Reading,
Yep.
learning. You read 10 books by people doing what you dream of doing, and now you have a business plan. They all did it and it worked. So you're going to do it the 11th time. Why won't it work? It just worked 10 other times. But most people say 10 books. How am I going to read 10 books? Well, like I said, my 84-year-old student read 3 in 3 hours. So in 3 days, you read 9 out of the 10 books. It's doable if you know how it's done, if you know how to learn and understand. Again, my website's mrreader.com/reading.
That's great. And on that note, as much as I want to get into more stuff, there's really going to be only two more questions before we start to close out the show. What strategies can help the students learn to make a positive impact on others through their knowledge? We're going to keep it short
That's
and sweet.
emotional intelligence. So, give you an example. We had a group of kids in Sugar Land, Texas. One of the children's brothers had Down syndrome. So these children decided they wanted to help fund a cure for Down syndrome for this young man. Of course, they're 11 to 15 years old. They're not going to do research on Down syndrome. So they started a business called Adopt a Mouse. They made a felt mouse. They built it and they had it made in China. They read books on how to make a website. They built their own website. They read books on public speaking. They spoke for Rotary and Lion, and then they went on TV and they made $93,000 their first year in business for research in Downs. And here's the best part, they won the Silver Pyramid. Every year in Vegas, there's an Academy Award for advertising, like there is for movies and TV and plays. This is for advertising. They won as the best not for profit business plan in America. They were 11 to 15. They beat Rotary. They beat the American Red Cross. You're 11 years old. Your first year in business, you made $93,000 to help raise money for people with Downs. And you had the best not for profit company in America. What do you see them doing for the rest of their lives? These kids will never need to look for a job. They already know how to build a company. They know how to run a company. They know how to make a program and a product and make money. They're set. They're 11 years old and they're already set for life. How many adults would like to make $93,000 their first year in business?
Seriously, good. That's impressive.
So it's about having goals,
Mhm.
having a mentor, someone who understands what you're trying to do and guides you, and being willing to listen to the instructions and follow them, and then bring in your own innovations and intuition. And that's what they did. So it could be done, but we don't teach ethics anymore in school. We used to, but there is no ethics anymore. And we see it in our culture where there's very low ethics in a lot of things. It's like, what's in it for me? And if it isn't big for me, why would I want to do it? What do I care about if it helps someone else? And that's part of the problem in our society is we look down on people who are struggling. They're not bad people. They're struggling for a reason. Things happen. Family member dies and there's no income. They can't go to school. They can't afford it. They're struggling to survive. And we look down on them instead of thinking, how can I help this person and raise them up? These are cultural problems and these are ethical and moral problems that need to be addressed. I'm not sure they will be. But what I do is try to teach people how to learn and understand and hope that as a result, they'll be exposed to better ideas and make better choices than the ones they're making. It's also character. Some people care about what's going on and people around them. I'm a Rotary, I was president of my Rotary Club 3 times. We don't look at what's in it for us. We look at what's the problem and how can we help find a solution. So
Yeah.
there are ways of doing that, and it's available to everyone, but not everyone takes advantage. So that's the first question. What was the second question?
The second question was, how can we teach students the most effective ways to learn? Like, for example, mastering a course. Just quick tips.
There isn't one way to learn, because we have different aptitudes. Some people do well in math and struggle in English. Some do well in English and struggle in math. So to say there's I'll tell you a story. This is one of my mentors was Dan Kennedy. He's a famous marketer, and he had a chiropractor. And every year he sold his company for $1 million. So the
Yes.
chiropractors would say, "Well, how do you do that?" He said, "Well, you got to get 100 new patients every month for a year. And at the end of the year, you could sell the business for $1 million." So someone said, "That's fantastic. Tell me the one thing I can do every month to get 100 new clients." He says, "I don't know. But I know 100 things you can do every month to get one new client." So the answer to your question is there isn't any one thing that'll work for everyone all the time
Yeah,
because we're different. But there's
exactly.
100 things you can do. And I tell people, here's a toolbox of information, and we're going to find the tool that works for you in that subject. It isn't the one that works for me. It
Yeah,
isn't the one that works for Marie. It's the one that works for you because you're an individual and your brain isn't my brain and it works differently. So we know the solution is here, and we're going to find the one that's best for you, not for everyone else.
yeah,
Again, if
that's good.
people want to learn more how I do this, they go to Mr. Reader, MRREADER, it's one word, .com/and reading. And that's where the program is. And I make sure they learn it. I don't just want them to get the program, I want to make a difference. So if they don't learn it, I help them. I make sure they get 2 months in my mastermind, or I work with them individually as a group, and they can ask me questions and tell me what's happening, and I can help fix any problems they're having. I get very few problems, but if I do, I want to fix them because that's my responsibility. I don't see it as just take the time and learn the program. It's like, no, you're trusting me to give you something and help you make sure it works. So I'm there to make sure it works. Most people, it's like, give me your money, figure it out. Here it is. I don't do that. I make sure they get an opportunity to interact with me personally to see what's going on. And if they need my help, I'm there, and make sure they actually get the skill and can accomplish what they set out to do. I think that's what every author should be doing. But how
Yeah,
many authors can you call up and say, "I'm having a question on your book," and they'll answer it? Very, very, very few. But I think that's the right way to teach. You should take responsibility and lead
definitely.
people, not just give them a product. Say, "I got your money, now you're on your own." I don't believe in that.
When I teach my business academy students, we do group masterminds and we do it weekly sessions because I feel like it gives them accountability, gives them an opportunity to learn from each other, not just from
Yes,
me, because I don't believe that I'm the only one they can learn from. But
absolutely.
I can bring in my expertise and other people can add value. And then in addition to that, we can troubleshoot any questions they might have. And then sometimes having group input is just as valuable as just the coach itself. But
Absolutely. It's better than
yeah.
I found in most of my masterminds, the other people's questions were better than mine. I didn't even know I didn't know that. I didn't even know that was something I needed to know. It wasn't even on my map to ask about. And I'm like, wow, what's that? I never heard
Yep.
of that before. And that's the beauty of the mastermind. Other people's questions. You sort of say, I didn't even know that was something I should ask a question about.
I felt like whenever I've done my business mastermind group sessions, because I do them like 2 months at a time right now. I had a year-long program and then a 6-month program, and now I'm doing them 2 months to keep them shorter. But the long story short of it is, I learn just as much from my students as I do from them learning from me, and I feel like it's reciprocal. And the same thing with my team. Whenever I bring on a team member, I tell them, you know, I'm not the totalitarian kind of person, dictator type person. I give them the information that on the project, the description, the tasks, the information they need to take care of that, whatever details they need to get log in, whatever. Um, and then but they're also, if they have questions or inputs or questions or something like that, we get on a call, we troubleshoot it. If they have some valuable tips or tricks to make it better, then we discuss it. And then if it's something that would benefit and make sense, then we include it in there. So I feel like everyone needs to have some value and feel valued in our groups,
Yes.
whether it's my
Very,
team
very,
or
yes.
our students,
100%. Yes.
because because people need to know that you care, and they also
Yeah.
need to, and the fact that you pointed out that you care about the students and how making sure
It
that they
matters to
learn.
me. I think of them as
Yeah,
family.
yeah,
They're trusting me to make a change in their life for the better, and I don't take that light. When I was much younger, I was a yogi, and I used to meditate I still meditate, but I went to an ashram every weekend, and you learn about karma. And I don't go anymore, but I still believe you have a responsibility to not just yourself, but to help make a better world than the world you found. That's just me. I'm not saying everyone does. I think we'd be better if they did, but you realize it isn't just about you, that we're a family,
yeah.
and that your benefits will benefit me. You became a doctor, maybe you'll fix a disease I get later in life because
We hope,
you
right?
we hope, right? But that's how I look at it. Everything
Mhm.
that I'm doing is about helping other people be more successful at what they do, and that'll benefit all of us. Having smarter people, more capable people, people making better choices. I mean, no one's saying there's too many smart people making too many good choices. That's the big problem today. I haven't heard that from anybody, not conservatives and not liberals. We need to learn to communicate better. We need people saying, how are you going to pay for that? And you need people saying, maybe we should see if there's a way. Both have something to offer. If you don't do any change, you stagnate. If all you do is change, you're killing off things that have value. There's a need for both. You
Right.
need to learn, listen to what other people are thinking. Just because you don't agree with them doesn't mean they're wrong. It's just another way of looking at it. And you become more intelligent when you listen to other people's ideas. You don't have to agree with them, but you learn from them.
Yeah.
And similarly, if they will listen to yours, learning to communicate is a good thing, not a bad thing. And
Right.
there's too much animosity today amongst people who have different opinions, and I don't want to hear it because it isn't what I'm thinking. And I'm like, I want to hear it. I want to know what you're thinking. I want to understand why you feel the way you do. I may not agree with you, but I certainly want to know why you feel the way you do so I can better understand you. And that's not a bad thing, it's a good thing.
Right. I think that's a really good takeaway tip for today. I won't even ask that question because I think you just nailed it right then and there. And then you've already talked about your myreader.com reading program. I want you to go and check that out. I feel like it would be a very good benefit. Like I said, I wish I had this when I was going to school.
You're
That
still
was,
young. I had a
yeah.
92-year-old double in 4 hours, and you don't
Oh,
look
wow.
92. You don't look close to it. And my 84-year-old read 3 books in
Appreciate that
3 hours.
compliment.
I'm
I'll be honest.
75. I'm
I
75.
literally just turned 57 on
You're
December
young.
15th. So yeah,
Brain's still young. I mean, I'm 20 years older than you.
that's hard to believe. You don't look it. Let's put it this way. You look like you're
I
at
have a
least.
painting in my attic that gets very ugly every year, like Dorian Gray, and I had the same painter.
We could have a topic about that another day.
Yeah,
We got to
different
get ready to
story.
close up. We got to get ready to close out the show. So I really want to say thank you for being here. It's been great to have you, Howard. I'm going to give a quick couple of little promos that I've done because we've already introduced yours as well. So really quickly, just wanted to ask everyone on the show if you are searching for a supportive community mixed with like teachers and professionals and parents with learning disabilities of all ages, I really encourage you to go to our private Facebook group, which is for additional resources from our show, and that's the Bubble Bears Books membership program, and it's over through. It's free. It's through Facebook. I think it's a private group though, so you have to ask to join. And then we do have a Trailblazers networking group that's free. And also, if you go on our YouTube channel, we also have our podcast listed there. And I do try to put some of that information in the description as well. So make sure you check out those channels for us. And really, last quick promo question I wanted to ask everyone is, ever wonder what it'd be like looking through the world through a dyslexic child's eyes, or anyone with a learning difficulty for that matter? Well, I'm the author of Bubble Bear's Special Problem, and this book destigmatizes learning disabilities in order to help provide a much better understanding about their learning processes. It's about how you process information. It really helps children and adults even to overcome the fear of learning disabilities so that they can contribute their talents by bringing awareness to really how children should be treated in and out of the classroom. And I really feel like this is a big, big problem even in 2024 and going into 2025. I feel like we still are just on the cusp of understanding this. And we're need to make a few more tweaks in the education system on how to handle that and so forth. But go out, check on our Amazon. The book, the podcast actually is based on the book series as far as the topics are concerned for the different learning difficulties and also the concept. So really quickly, just want to sit there and say thank you for being here, Howard. It's been an honor to share some valuable tips on how to help our audience grow themselves on the Choosing Acceptance podcast. And our topic today, as a recap, was a total learning solution for the 21st century by Howard Berg, who did an excellent job explaining all this with a lot of fun detailed with stories and stuff that really kind of added a lot of um, extra value, be the best way of putting it. So anyway, I really want to encourage you to take advantages of our offers on our YouTube channel and also check us out on social media. Please join us for the next episode to overcome our learning difficulties and achieve success. I can speak, apparently not today. But anyway, anyone ever have tongue ties? Let me know. I'm not the only one. So we stream every week on YouTube. I do my best. I've been a little bit behind this year, so I will get it out and crank it out like crazy in January. So please be aware that most of these podcasts are being done in 2024. Some are not going to be released until 2025. So please enjoy them. Please like, share, and subscribe them. They really help our channel grow. And you'll see us on Facebook, YouTube, and even I'll share them on LinkedIn. So until next time, I'm your host, Marie Mason, saying goodbye from the Choosing Acceptance podcast, along with our guest, Howard. Y'all, here's a word from one of our sponsors. Have a great week, everyone. And that ends this week's show. Bye, everybody. You want to say bye, Howard?
Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year's. And we're recording it in December. And even if it's not on a holiday when you read it, whatever holiday is coming up, we wish you that you have a nice, enjoyable experience
It's
during that
Memorial
time.
Day.
Who knows when you all will be watching it? You never know. So whatever holiday it is, we hope you enjoy it and be safe and get some good experience from this show. Thanks so much, and you all have a great week, everybody. So, and you all enjoy. My name is Marie Mason. I am the author of Bubble Bear Special Problem. And this book destigmatizes learning disabilities in order to provide a better understanding of their learning process. It helps children to overcome their fear of learning disabilities so that they can contribute their talents by bringing awareness to how children should be treated in and out of the classroom. If you would like more to learn about this book, then go to Amazon.com and check out Bubble Bear Special Problem by Marie Mason.